So I spent the morning also with Vivek. He was holding an audience reading room session with us, which is a facilitated script reading, and that was another very interesting side of Vivek to experience. With the quest in particular, I've been wanting to see what it's like so that I can form my thoughts. I've seen snippets, of course, but for me, a lot of my life in my head, in categories and boxes that have like musical notes on it. There's kinds of music that I associate with certain periods in my life, and I'm sure that's true for everyone. But there's one tune that will take me back to a particular time, and I can't associate it with anything else. Like for now, I can't listen to Babu Supriyo without thinking of Varun, which is great. But I was actually wondering what it was like for you to be able to draw those motives in, and if anybody else would like to talk about that as well. I also noticed that you had your eyes closed for a bunch of the songs that you were singing. I was wondering what that meant.
Okay, to begin with, so this piece was developed as part of a workshop I attended in Italy. So at the heart of their practice, singing is very central to their practice, and I have never sung in my life. So
doesn't seem like that.
so that was the first time I was singing when I was there. So I was trying my everything to be able to sing. So I think partly that to be just, and also the songs, especially the last two songs, has a different quality than the first two songs. The first two songs are more playful. So their eyes open is okay. Like, just my response to singing it. The last two songs also have a different emotional realm, I think. Especially the third one, when I sing after my mother's passing, so to say. And so, I don't know, I'm just not able to sing it. I'm able to sing it like that only, not with open eyes. I'm not able to do it. It's a lack of ability. That's how I see it. And in the workshop, the idea of singing those songs is slightly different in the sense that they were not interested in what the lines meant. So they helped me choose the song. So they would listen to it. They of course don't follow the language. They were also not interested to know what it meant. They were going more by the sound of it. And how was it sounding? And if the song had a capacity to elevate as you sing it, if you can climb something. That's how they look for songs or pick songs. And I didn't know how that choice making happens. So I would just share, what about this song, what about this song? And then slowly I was getting a sense of why this and why not something else. I think it helps, in my limited understanding, for some kind of transition to something, to another realm. So I try to sing like that. I try. So open eyes is difficult for me to be able to do that.
No, I know what you mean.
No, please.
Yeah, I know what you mean because I'm also, I sing sometimes. And I also sing from mostly my eyes closed. It's also because for the singer what happens is, in my case, is that I get transported to another realm or another place, and I also try to take the audience along with me. That may or may not happen, but that is what my effort is in. And when you said elevation, I could see that you were singing from your body. It was not only coming from here or here or here, but when you were doing this and you were carrying on a note, so you were also doing that, and that used to sort of the expanse of it, of that grew, and then when you sort of came down a little bit, your voice also was lowering down. Then you would do this, and then slowly you would do this, and then it would go up again. See that as well.
Yeah, there is something that I'm also trying to do, which is to kind of maintain a certain kind of alignment of the spine and also slightly bent knees, where it's allowing for energy to rise.
Yeah.
Try.
How are you feeling, by the way? How are you feeling?
Good. After performance of Quest, usually I feel a certain, more energized. Yeah. Especially if the songs, even if I were to just sing the song separately, sometimes. Here, of course, you're singing just for about maybe a minute or something. Sometimes you sing the same 4 or 5 lines in loop for maybe 10 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes. And then if I'm able to maintain continuity of attention, then something happens.
Yeah. It becomes like a chant.
Yeah, it's. I remember when I left the first. I went there twice, consecutive years. So when I left the first time, it was very new for me, the entire thing. I remember making a drawing. So the drawing went like this. So you have these concentric circles, but going one above the other, and in the end, that curve escapes the circle. It goes straight. So it is, and that's something I also draw from in my training programs, and also for myself as an individual, and also when I'm working, which is to the moment you see looping of any kind, unless and until it's intentioned or you know that you're looping, you get limited. But at the same time, you can use the looping with awareness to escape the loop, and that often is a very elevating kind of an experience, or to take you to a different place, to surprise yourself. And this way, this play in that sense where need for meaning is another kind of meaning that appears, which may not be cerebrally or logically understood, but then you feel it very strongly.
It's really interesting that you said that they didn't know the language when you were picking the songs, and didn't want to know either, because I feel like I've been conditioned to believe that the deeper meanings of songs are revealed through their lyrics.
Right.
And here we're talking about just sound, change in sound, change in tone, change in volume, creating that kind of distance and journey for someone. Which is, if I think about it outside of the intellectual exercise of appreciating lyrics,
Right.
then it's true that certain tunes, like the opening track of the Kaho Na Pyar Hai song, it's like some things you just recognize and and they cue memories, or they cue feelings that you can't explain actually. You don't even know why it's happening. So I just thought that was really interesting that the process started with actually not wanting to engage with the lyrics and moving purely on the basis of sound. I was just curious if anybody else has like strong memories associated with musical sounds that are not lyrically driven. I don't know.
Also, just to add one more point, so they would be interested in the vibratory quality of the song. That's what they go for. And so interested in what vibration from what sound and how it's being arranged. And if that arrangement is allowing of something to elevate.
Just to add to your point, that's actually true, the conditioning part, because quite often one finds themselves in that position of ek dhun yaad hai, kya lyrics the? And this pressure to remember the lyrics is so much,
I never remember lyrics, and so I just make up my own things as I go along. And then years later, some penny will drop and it'll be like, "Acha, these were the words." And someone around me will say, "You are such a fool. What have you been singing and appreciating all this time? Why aren't you actually paying attention?"
Yeah.
So that's why it kind of struck me that it's about making meaning, but it's accessing that meaning from an entirely different plane of experience.
Right.
On the meaning making, I had a question for you, which is that through the play, quite often through the narrative, there's a lot of making and breaking. Making and breaking again, with Varun's narrative, with the different episodes, we always quite are looking forward to, अच्छा अब ये क्या करेगा या इसका ऐसा क्या होगा कि ये आगे निकल जाएगा, But again, something falls. Quite often, it's the waiting. And since the play is about the finding meaning or making sense, so like I personally really appreciate the lack of certitude in the play itself. So did that come out by itself, or do you think that was something that you set out to do to be a little away from certitude?
No, I think that just emerged through the process, because also though it says written by me, it certainly is, but it also has been written under guidance. Somebody was a dramaturg who's kind of guiding me through it, and she's played a very, very important role, and I can't imagine developing this without her. Honestly speaking, I didn't know where it was going when I was writing it. I have no clue. She would say, write this, write that, and then she would arrange this, like this, and she has done. Maybe it has to do with my sentences, but it's a lot to do with how you've structured it, and even this idea about maybe it was supposed to be like this, but maybe it was not supposed to be. It's a simple thing, but that's come from her response to the things that I have said. But that line has been coined by her, really. So I was just responding, and slowly, I didn't even know where it's leading, if it is even coming together. I was completely, because it was very, very new for me, the entire process. I was just discussing with him yesterday that, in the first week, I want to run away, I want to come back, because I just couldn't do anything. I've never written anything. So I was really struggling, and somehow before I went, I didn't know how the workshop will be, because it had very little details on the website. But I went because I was interested in Grotowski's work and so on and so forth. But then Tara, the dramaturg, she was just very, very persistent, and she would just not allow me to get up from the table. I'm hungry, here's an apple, don't get up right. It was literally like that. And then the second week, something of what I wrote, she said, something is beginning to happen now, right? So it was just being, and then finally something emerged, and that's when I am also seeing it like that. And honestly speaking, I trust her intelligence of arrangement. But as I'm doing it, every time I'm doing it, I am also trying to figure it out. Really. And I think this time, I feel like, because the ending is shifted for me a little bit, not that writing was anything different, it's the same thing, but just the little things, the way I end it, is something which is being found in the doing, really. So I'm also looking for it. But yeah, I think that this thing of the lack of certitude, I think, is definitely designed into.
Could you talk a little bit more about how the performance has changed the more and more you performed it?
I think it's shifted for me. I don't know how the performance has shifted in what I do. I think small things here and there, and some action has come, and so on and so forth. But for me internally, I think initially it was for me to just, be able to overcome some shame and judgment about myself, and to engage with it and share it with an audience. It was to overcome that, because when I was performing it over there, all of them are people I don't know from different parts of the world, so it gave you a certain kind of different kind of an agency, and everybody is creating work, and they're also telling their stories. But the moment you come back, I wasn't planning on performing it or anything, and I thought, okay, kuch banaya hai, so let me just, there's a studio I work out with, so I just shared it there, and people who have seen me perform earlier, they said they have never seen me like this. This is a new performer. That's what they said. And I'm like, oh yeah, is there a value? I felt it is a very, talking my story, why would that interest anybody? But I was surprised by the response. And then I thought, okay, maybe ek aur show karte hain. Studio mein hi kiya hai. In the festival, invitations the then, because of pandemic didn't happen. So in that journey of doing it many times, I think from a place of overcoming a sense of shame or judgment about myself, to being comfortable, to now being at a place that I feel that there is a design for me to search. It seems like a design or an opportunity to search, and every time I do it, although I'm saying Varun, etc., it's subconsciously you are reflecting when you are not choosing to, and I think it's doing something to me. And Yeah, and I know I can't not have this question with myself. Where am I right now with my I'm really looking for signs, things like that. So that way, it's an invitation to consider some of the questions that are in the play. So there's a different kind of desire to do this, to perform this now, to wanting to search through it. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, because I think you embarked on the performance as an exploration. So that's why I was also curious, has the exploration revealed anything? And in that sense, have things being incorporated, or you want to incorporate into the performance based on maybe newer questions?
Yeah,
newer explorations?
I do get some hints last night. Not last night, just this afternoon. I just did a little practice and I was lying down here and I had some thoughts. But I also reached out to Tara. She's studying somewhere. So I'm hoping that we're able to. I don't know how it's possible online, but we will try. But I don't feel like going ahead without her somehow, because she's been very central to its creation.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, because you say so a lot of it is based on your experiences, and of course you have the performing with your craft, and you keep moving the performance aspect of it also as shows happen, right? But you said that you completely believed the structural intelligence that she provided.
Correct.
So then is it that objectivity from the outside on any self-reflective work, especially about meaning making? You think is that a very key aspect then?
Yeah, I think so, because
you are the observer and the observed.
Correct, that's true. I think so. I think it's like I said, it is an invitation for deeper inquiry, and these kind of inquiries also I think don't really close, like something or the other keeps challenging something you settle with, and that I think is the idea. In fact, to tell you this, where the play ends about me looking at these monkeys, something really happened, but not what I say after it. So for me at that point when that happened, there was no fear really, and I thought that this is a sign for me to leave, and I just left that place and I came back, and it was very clear to me, so to say. But here, that's not how it's unfolding, because there it has been fictionalized to point to a deeper inquiry. You see what I mean? So it's also using instances, but structuring it to attain to what the real inquiry is. So because they're also interested to know at this point in time in your life, what is the question that is alive, and they try to frame that question through fictionalized arrangement of your experiences of life. So there's one thing that Thomas used to say. He said, while pursuing the objectivity of creation, the subjectivity of the artist must be protected. So the name Varun, and there's a certain kind of objective distancing that's important, so that one doesn't, get, like, doesn't slip, so to say. It doesn't come across as, in any which way self-sympathetic or things like that. That's where the sense of play all the time, fun and such.
I want to actually say another thing which I thought was really useful for me, at least to see, as a symbolic way of how you represent it when the ship arrives. That's it. Life is just like that sometimes. Put all your heart and soul, it dissipates, it is gone. And I was wondering if, I had this moment in school as well. We just had these practical things that you would do for psychology and geography. And the first thing that the examiner did after months of putting hard work into that interview and tests, she opened the files and she just tore the first page. And our teachers had spent at least 2 weeks telling us how the cover page has to be very beautiful and very lovely. And as girls, you're always told me, "Tumhara file aisa kyun hai?" The boys are okay, like their files can look like crap, it's okay. But I spent a lot of time, and then I thought I was God, like this is it. This is like the end of my psychology career. This is finished for me. She hates me. She doesn't even know me, but she hates me. But then she said, no, it's because we don't want it to get replicated. And I thought that's such a stupid thing. Why just tell the person or the child or the student that this is why I'm doing it instead of just like completely tearing the first page. But I was wondering if you might go around and talk about maybe some moments in our lives when something has happened where you thought it would have meaning, but it just sort of fell apart. And then it just didn't seem to matter as much.
Yeah, I would say that it's love. Yeah, so, okay, let's not go there. But if anybody else, yeah, feel
No,
free.
I also just wanted to share because we were also talking about the songs, and I wanted to share that I think the third song and the fourth song in Begun, I also closed my eyes actually. So my eyes were not open for that because yeah, it just felt like something. It just happened, and I almost like leaned on my friend's shoulder, and I was like, you know. So it's interesting that she said that, oh, your eyes are closed. I was like, oh, my eyes are also closed. And you asked something about like the song, which is something which came up for me while watching the piece as well, because I also didn't know the words or the meaning. So it was just about like feeling, and I was like, oh, meaning is feeling actually. and it made me remember this. It was at my sister's wedding, and it was this massive celebration. We were all doing yay, and then at Fera Vera and everything done, and then my chachi was like, there was some ritual they were doing, and my chachi started singing this song in a particular language which I didn't understand, and it was so sad. It was just this sad, and I was again looking at the moon somewhere, closing my eyes, going again, feeling, not understanding any meaning of anything. And yeah, that's something I thought about oddly, or like felt in my body when you were doing the scene with the mother, like with your mother, and that came to me where I was like, you know, it was supposed to be a celebration, but it was so sad, and here I found myself kind of giggling when you said, oh, what if I just looked back? I was like, look back, just look back. Yeah, and just I think meaning is often just completely lost for me actually in anything because of the feeling.
That's very well put.
I think it's a really interesting thing that you said, that meaning is feeling. Because I don't know, the more esoteric it is apparently is what makes it more meaningful, but to actually root it in your personal experience is what makes it meaningful for you.
So, I have a story to share for this. So I studied, my post-graduation was in Chennai. Okay, so I was there for about 3 years. And one thing that really attracted me to that city was one, the food, and the second was the music. Because most of my pals, my batchmates, etc., and we were studying film. So were from a lot of them were from Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Kerala. Now I'd love to listen to all that music, keep singing it, ulta सीधा गा रहा हूँ कुछ भी शुरू के 1 sentence आता है उसके बाद पूरे गाने गा रहा हूँ उनके साथ, and I'm singing all wrong things, okay, which they were really nice to hear. अच्छा चलो ठीक है, he's trying. But this one song, one song I used to sing very passionately, and I remembered some lyrics of it, and I used to feel like यार ये कितना अच्छा गाना है यार, ये ऐसा गाना. Till Vishnu Chetta, my roommate, said, Macha, come, I'll tell you what the meaning is. And then he told me the meanings of the lyrics. Then suddenly bhavi badal gaya usko gaane ka. I was like, I wish I didn't know the meaning, man.
Do you feel like your balance or your navigation of the internal yes and the external no has changed since working on this?
No, I don't think it's been so.
I was going to ask for lessons. So.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
I also had a question.
Yeah.
When you said that if we were to design a piece like yours, by that I mean structurally it's a one-person piece. How strongly do you recommend is that how deeply personal or vulnerable can one be in that piece?
Yeah, I mean, my answer is the same, which is the one that I was saying, that to have the subjectivity of the participant or the performer protected. So it has to be designed keeping that in mind. In fact, after I came back from the Workcenter the first time, I offered a workshop at the studio in Bangalore, trying to emulate that design, being on the other side, just to kind of understanding. And in fact, from that workshop, one of the participants who came, something emerged. There were 6 participants. It was about 3 weeks, the workshop, and on the final day we had just little presentations. So one of the presentations I felt like can travel, and the participant also was very interested. And then we said, okay, I mean, if you're interested, we can just continue the inquiry. That's a play likhna, aisa kuch nahi tha. Okay. And he was also staying about 25 kilometers away from the studio, but he would be there every day on time, so that also gave you some inspiration. This guy seems to be invested. 6 months into it, I think 2 months into it, I found myself also coming in as an author about things that I want to say, so to say. And the workshop was in May, and in October we had a reading, which lasted 40 minutes. And we just had some friends over to respond, and they all gave us a response saying this should become a play. Then we said, okay, I play once, तो फिर play सोच के लिखते हैं, आगे बढ़ाते हैं इसको. Then by next year May, we had a draft, and that play later became, that text later became this play called Adhura. It's a one-man show. We've done about 46 shows of that.
Third space,
No, we've performed at this place called Karkhana, which is now Stopgap.
Okay.
Last year, we had 2 shows then, and that place traveled quite a bit.
I've heard of it.
Right, yeah, we traveled quite a bit even in the north. So that draws a lot from the participant who came, but he was not interested in performing it, and also there were some limitations in terms of skill. So then I performed that. So that draws a lot from his life, and some things that I brought in. It's also a fairly political play in that sense. So that came out of a process like that. But it's a very, you really must want to engage in that process, and it also, and the idea is also definitely to create, but it might not be a 1-hour piece, or it might be a 10-minute piece, So even when I went to the Workcenter, different people, all of them created, but the duration was different for different people. Some of them it was 10 minutes, but still potent. Some of them 40 minutes, some of them 50 minutes. So yeah, it's basically like in the last phase of Grotowski's work, that is termed as art as vehicle, where the idea is that the creator is creating to facilitate a process where this art making is a vehicle for him to elevate, for him to grow as a human being, so to say. That was the last phase of his work, which then Thomas Richards continued, and I went there, so to say. So they asked you to come with a piece of text. It could be anything, a piece of text, an image, a song that resonates with you, and there is a desire in you to create from that. So you need to go with the text like that. And then what they do, they ask you to perform something for 2 minutes with that text and that song. And that's where they see your skill level, where are you with your skill, just to have an idea. And then they get into a conversation with you, trying to understand why have you picked this text, which invariably leads to you, the person. At this point in your life, you've picked this for some reason, and that inquiry through intimate conversations lead you to speaking various things about your life. One thing leads to the other. You don't know why you're saying that, It's like a freewheeling chat. And from there, they pick instances, arrange it, ask you to write it, structure it. That's how something emerges.
So it's important to have somebody who is not you.
I think so.
Look at you, observe,
I think so.
with you.
I think so.
Very important.
Else it might be difficult to bring that objectivity to it.
Yeah.
which I think is important. But yeah, anything, I mean, if you want to, I mean, I've been speaking quite a bit, but if there's anything as an audience that you would like to respond or say, I'm just curious to know. If
I
you
would
feel
just,
like
yeah, and of course, thank you very much. That was, I mean, I felt very moved because it was such a tender way of saying something, which like, you know, about meaning, not just, but like also about speaking about childhood where there's so much joy and, you know, tenderness, but there's also this sadness and this like being lost and not knowing and just like really trying to figure what this is supposed to be like, and what the design of life is supposed to be like, and you know, also very interestingly, like what meaning is also because you don't have access to the language for a lot of the experiences that you are going through. So like meaning making and what that